Hello, I'm June Thomas. I was going to say I'm the foreign editor at Slate, but I'm not anymore. Now I'm a culture critic, and I'm talking today with Willa Paskin. Willa, who are you?
I'm Willa Paskin. I'm the deputy entertainment editor at Vulture, which is New York Magazine's culture blog.
And an awesome one it is. And we're going to be talking about fall TV. Isn't this like the most glorious time of the year?
It's the best because there's so much to talk about. It's like we waited all summer in the wasteland, and now.
Well, you and I disagree about whether summer is a wasteland, but we're not gonna waste our time on that discussion.
Sorry.
Now, in this, and before we start, we probably are not going to be too spoilery. We're not going to go into incredible plot detail, but if you are a person who is super sensitive about spoilers, just be warned that we might stray a little bit into that territory, which is probably a warning that's not terribly useful, but I give it anyway. Willa, you diagnosed some very sort of key themes in this fall season's offerings. Do you want to kind of dilate on them?
Sure. I think this season is unique, perhaps. I mean, there have been shows like this before, in sort of its focus on gender issues. Basically, there's two sort of very specific sets of shows. There's the set of sitcoms that's about single women, well, not all single, but like 20-something women, sort of sexually free, funny, sassy ladies. Two Broke Girls, Whitney, the new girl, which is the Zooey Deschanel show.
Yeah, Apartment 23, which hasn't quite started yet, but it'll be mid-season.
And was called The Bitch in Apartment 23 once, a better title that they can't air. And then there's actually two more. There's the Chelsea Handler show, based on Chelsea Handler's biography. Are You There, Chelsea? It's Me, Vodka. And Best Friends Forever, which is about two best friends. So those will both be on NBC. So there's that sort of cohort of show. And also HBO has a show coming out next year called Girls, which is by Lena Dunham. Which is So it seems like that's actually a real trend. Like it's a new sort of development. And then there's also these sitcoms, sort of that are bitter man sitcoms, sad man sitcoms.
Yes, you used the term sad man sitcoms in a piece that you did on Vulture, and I thought that was a perfect encapsulation.
Yeah, so there's three of those starting now, and then there's one, the best one by far, is starting in mid-season. So there's Tim Allen, who's the home improvement guy, doing sort of his Tim Allen thing in the show called Last Man Standing. There's the show Man Up, which is sort of more about parenting than it is about, being a man, although there is a lot of that anxiety. And there's How to Be a Gentleman on CBS, which is basically two guys. One is sort of macho, one is sort of an effeminate magazine editor, and one teaches the other how to be a man.
Right.
And the other teaches one how to be a gentleman. And then the best one, of course, is Work It, which is this cross-dressing show that ABC is going to do, sort of an update of Bosom Buddies that is, it's magnificently horrible. It's the worst thing. It's like a gift. I feel like it's a gift to bloggers everywhere. I can't wait for it to start. It's honestly like the most misogynistic, most homophobic. It's wonderful.
It is.
In its horribleness. So
it's amazing. I was slightly concerned when you started there because I was like, wait, does she really like it?
No.
It is magnificent, and everything about it. I think they start with the arch in St. Louis, and I really think St. Louis should sue or something because it's got to be stopped. It's like something from 1988 or something.
No, it's there's like that line in it where, so this is the things about this show that is not starting anytime soon that I want to talk about, which is that the premise is that there's a point where the wife is working, she's a nurse, and the husband has been laid off, and he is drinking with his friends, and basically starts to sort of complain about how his wife has made him go grocery shopping.
Right.
And they're all like, ugh, women, they make you go grocery shopping. Like, it's not even that he had to go buy tampons or something.
Right.
Like, he doesn't have a job and he had to go to the grocery store. That's a sort of gender-free task at this point. Exactly. And then the other guy says to him, like, they make us scurry around like monkeys touching fruit or something, and it's just so obviously coded, like fruity. It's not even coded. It's basically him saying they're like making us fruits. And it's just that you can't even believe that. I don't understand exactly what ABC is thinking.
Well, and then
they're not in keeping with their sort of like Grey's Anatomy fluffy stuff.
Exactly. And then the next line, as I recall, is something like, yeah, I don't even need a bag for my nectarines. I could just put them where my balls used to be. And you're like, long pause for laughter, but of course, no. Why would
anybody laugh?
It'd be impossible to laugh at that.
Impossible. So basically, there's these two shows, and they're sort of sets of shows, and I think they're sort of actually really coming out of similar place, although one is an anxious place and one is sort of a much less anxious place, which is this idea of like the man session and the end of men. These shows are very explicitly sort of the sad man sitcoms, like designed out of that. You know, someone like read, you know, an article about it and was like, we'll make a show about this. Yes. And then on the flip side, there's these shows about these women that are sort of, you know, obviously there haven't, you know, women are underrepresented. It's sort of in television and movies very regularly, so it's sort of like it's a counter trend. And a lot of the guys on these shows are, you know, seem uncomfortable in this new world that is much gayer and is much more female friendly than the one, you know, they sort of, I get like some golden age when those things didn't happen. Right.
And often they very explicitly pine for those days when men were men and only danced when someone was shooting at their feet.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
The bigger problem for me definitely on all of the male ones, although I had a little bit of a soft spot for Man Up, which I agree with you is actually a parenting show in the style of Modern Family, which has unfortunately been saddled with a lot of, you know, man session. You know, at one point, one guy says, you know, he's looking for a gift for his son at some key birthday, and the guy, one of his friends with whom he's playing video games, says, well, you could give him a journal. It's a place to put your dreams and your hopes and your thoughts. And the friend says and does, you know where else you can put all those things? In your vagina. Again, like, hilarious.
This is, June pointed this out already, but a trend of this season. And it sort of is about kind of like women being raunchy and everyone being raunchy, is that basically everyone is trying to say the word vagina. Like, literally saying the word vagina is just funny in and of itself.
Yes.
Which, I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess that's such a... It sort of reminds me that about, like, 5 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago, suddenly everyone started saying douche on television, which is now so common that, like, the new girl has a thing called a douchebag jar. But when it first happened, you could sort of see that, like, these writers are trying to be hip in this way, and the networks have finally been like, okay, you can use that word. Yeah. So expect vagina to be a very regular word on your television in 5 years.
Exactly. But my bigger problem with all of these shows is that none of them were funny. I mean,
that's true.
did you like any of them? Even like either the sad men coms or the whatever cute term we're using for the girl types?
I mean, the thing is, and this is such an annoying thing to say, is that pilots, so the first episode of TV shows are like, it's not like judging a movie from the first half hour. It would be like judging a movie from the script.
Yes, because, or the pitch.
Because they change so much. Because basically shows, because they run so long, you know, they sort of end up working with the actors really intensely. Like the writer's room works together too. They'll figure out what's funny and what's not. They come together. They sort of figure out the actors' strengths, and sort of slowly the actors become the characters and the characters become the actors. And initially it's sort of just really one person wrote it. They had an idea. Some of it won't work and some of it will. So it's not irregular that, you know, pilots are really not funny. And a really great pilot can mean absolutely nothing.
Right.
But I mean, no, you know, I read the New Girl script and I thought it was pretty weak, but I thought the execution like elevated that stuff a ton. I thought all those actors were very charming, and there's things about it that, and I don't even really like Zooey Deschanel so much, but there were things about I was amused by that show. I'm happy that it did well. Two Broke Girls, I thought there was a lot that was really cringeworthy about it, and the laugh track. I mean, I know there's really funny shows that have laugh tracks, but it just feels a little retrograde, but I could see that show getting better. I mean, none of the other ones are funny. Basically.
Yes, I can see that because there were some good lines, and I thought one of the larger problems was that Kat Dennings just had one tone. Like, she just didn't have any variety. I was going to say she didn't have much variety. She didn't have any variety. Yeah. But as you say, as the producers of the show, the creators, I'm not sure exactly whose role it would be, as people work with her, I'm sure that can be addressed. And, you know, it's funny, I seem to be disagreeing with most people about the new girl. I didn't care for it, and I don't know if you read. Alyssa Rosenberg had a piece on Wednesday, the day that we're recording this, where she basically, I think, very accurately pointed out that more than quirky or charming, she's kind of stupid. It's not particularly charming to just take over a couch and a TV in a shared apartment. It's not particularly cute to, be waiting for someone in a restaurant, taking a table, and just keep asking for free things instead of just buying a glass of wine. That it's kind of, she was behaving a little bit like a child. It was kind of infantilizing.
That's part of this whole debate about Zooey Deschanel and girliness and sort of her whole, she's a very sort of childish heroine as opposed to, Whitney, which I think the pilot is really dreadful and may get better. Yeah. She is not a child. Kat Dennings' character is not a child. I mean, those people are sort of, but so, that character is, she's sort of, she's the manic pixie dream girl, like extraordinaire.
Right.
But, I guess, I think that is really just like a full taste thing. Like there's just people there's just people that aren't going to like that. And it's annoying, it is genuinely annoying. It's a very shticky thing.
Yes.
That her whole persona. But I thought the supporting actors were kind of good. I was sort of expected to be much more annoyed about it, but then I was. And who knows? It could be really bad. It could stay good,
And apparently the pilot did amazing ratings, right? Millions of people watched it.
It did really well. It did better than Glee, which was its lead-in.
Exactly. And this after having very wide availability, it's available free on iTunes the week before it premiered and all of those things, which did not do any harm.
I'm surprised. It's sort of surprising when you see a network like market something well, because it's sort of hard to know when you see all these ads, like what's working and what's not. But I wouldn't have necessarily predicted that there was a huge audience for Zooey Deschanel being herself, or, being very much that sort of like hipster, the pinup of Williamsburg, as New York Magazine put it in their cover story. But apparently, there is. I mean, the other thing I would say also is beyond these sitcoms about this gender stuff is that there's all these dramas that are dealing with it too. I mean, Charlie's Angels is, in a weird way, obviously all about this. I mean, certainly the original was like very involved in gender dynamics and sort of its reputation is kind of based on that, and Prime Suspect, and there's more than that.
Yeah, well, the two sort of 60 shows, Playboy Club and Pan Am.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's just finish talking about sitcoms, because I do want to talk about all of those shows, but sitcoms, I don't think either of us are going to have much nice to say about the Sad Men sitcoms. They I think most of them just seem pretty awful, which probably means that they'll be huge.
Well, I have to say, if that's, ABC expecting that Tim Allen show to do really well. They spent a ton of money on him. Home Improvement was obviously a huge hit for them. They actually are not as in much trouble as NBC, but they're in trouble. But it's funny. It's like it's this thing. 2.5 Men is obviously does incredibly well and is a sad man sitcom in its way.
Yeah. Yes.
And so it's not like there's not an audience for that, but it's just really interesting. CBS is sort of like, I avoid it. Yeah. I don't.
It's
I
the
don't
old
watch
people's network.
Right. I watch The Good Wife. But it's very. There's a lot of you feel like about their coverage is very different. How I Met Your Mother's great, all that stuff, but it's most of it you ignore. Yeah. So it just seems it's interesting to watch something like ABC sort of trying to get into that space because it feels like they're like sort of disavowing you. You're like, why are you going after this misogynistic, bizarro, retrograde corner of the universe?
Right. And again, that's a show which is both a Sad Men sitcom and a parenting show because a great deal of the sort of discomfort around male roles is actually about both his relationship with his 3 daughters. He's a guy who's in a house of women, and then also he has a grandson, and his concerns about his grandson being,
dancing on a float one day.
Because,
direct quote.
Exactly. Because his daycare is too
touchy-feely.
Yeah, exactly.
Hippy.
Yes, exactly. Is again, it's all about parenting, which feels, of the moment, but also, I don't know.
The thing about that Tim Allen show is interesting, the point that you raised, because it felt like there was almost an actual, like, sort of politically correct or sort of less offensive idea smuggled in there that they kind of hadn't worked out, which is that, you know, Tim Allen really loves his grandson. He really wants to be a better dad. He really wants, he basically makes a decision to be more engaged with his daughters. So he's not actually going to, you know, be the man in like the sense that he's going back to work. And he also, you know, there's a scene where he sort of, you're told that his grandson was crying and he was like, let it all out. So you can see there's weird gestures in sort of this more, you know, attachment parenting, like warm, be friends with your kids direction. And it's just sort of running alongside Tim Allen's particular brand of comedy, which is so, you know, in your face and misogynistic and like the grunting noise from Home Improvement.
Exactly. It's Home Improvement with a vlog.
Right, with a vlog. I actually thought that one line when him and his wife are talking about what a vlog was, I think it was improv. I thought it was I was like, that was charming. I just like liked it. They basically start talking about a vlog and notice that it's a really gross word to say. Right. And it is a really gross word to say. Absolutely. And they're cute about it. Mm-hmm. That show is, I think, going to stay as exactly what it is. But, you know, it's not beyond imagination that they sort of have these like Full House moments sort of dispersed throughout it that are less offensive than sort of like the packaging and everything else.
Yes. I think I agree with you that that's probably one that will in some ways stay the same, but I think tone down some of the things which were excessively present in the pilot to kind of establish, and it'll be more about parenting and you know, being the parent of mostly of being the parent of daughters.
Well, what did you think about the other parenting show, Up All Night?
Up All Night,
Applegate and Will Arnett and Maya Rudolph show.
I felt bad about this because I like very much all of those actors. But it was a bit dull for me, and I sort of, you know, I was merrily making notes as I was watching most of these screeners. Or I watched the pilot, you know, the pilot on my TV of Up All Night, and I just sort of had nothing to say. Like, it was cool and all, but again, I think it was like, this is the situation. You know, we had a baby, our lives have changed. I still, you know, the woman still works for a controlling boss who's kind of like Oprah. It was a lot of setup, so I hope that it gets better because I really want to like it. What about you? What did you think?
I mean, I think I liked it a little better than that, but I agree. I mean, I'm giving those people a lot of credit, and I thought that there was some nicely observed stuff about parenting that a lot of parents have said was like exactly right, sort of the cursing over your baby. There's a scene where they're cursing in front of their baby, and they keep being like, oh shit, do we have to stop doing this? Oh fuck, like we should stop doing this. And it's very, you know, it seemed, and sort of this fight about waking up in the morning, like I'll pay you $1 million to get up right now, like, and a fight over who slept, you know, who had less sleep. All that stuff seemed very nicely observed. I think, you know, the truth is, it's great to have 3 people that are like that on a show, but it's also like, that's a lot of people that could each have their own sitcom. So it'll be really interesting to see how they balance that. And the other thing about pilots that's sort of, and sometimes you can tell and sometimes you can't, like, what will a regular episode of that show be like? You know, what is like, because they're sort of like, they're formulaic, you know, what is this going to be like, there's home and her work? And you kind of couldn't quite tell from the pilot, like, what the beats of an episode will be, and how much time everyone will have, and how that will all work out. And that will obviously matter a lot. But I really, you know, I really actually, and I like Christina Applegate in particular, her sort of sourness. She's very, like, Samantha Who, which was a show she played 2 people on that did pretty well, and then the strike happened, and then it did badly, and wasn't, you know, great or anything. She played 2 characters because she had amnesia. So her pre-amnesiac self was like a total bitch, and her post-amnesiac self is a sweetheart, and she really can play a total bitch. And so even when she's kind of being someone who's nice, she has that sort of hardness. It reminds me a little bit of Veronica Mars, like Kristen Bell, who's like a little bit brittle. And you kind of know why they aren't movie stars, because it's not super likable, but on a TV show, it's like it's a nice layer on a character, and she has that. So, I mean, it's funny, like, I obviously, I love Will Arnett and Maya Rudolph too, but I almost like them all.
I'm absolutely with you. And then the last sitcom that I've seen, I haven't seen all of the pilots, was a show that I liked a lot, but it's that they are kind of the opposite feeling where I liked it a lot, and I thought, but it's not going to succeed, and if it had been on premium cable, it would have, had 4 successful seasons because it seemed like that was where it belonged. And that was Free Agents, which is Hank Azaria and a woman who I don't recognize.
Catherine Hahn.
Thank you.
She's been a lot of best friends in romantic comedies.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yes, it's a forte of hers.
And she was lovely and charming, and I liked her a lot. And both of them had, I think actually it was the best written of all the pilots. It had really superior repartee.
Have you seen the thing it's based on?
No, I have not seen the British show, no. And it just seemed like excellent writing. Very, the lines were delivered very professionally, very expertly. I think Hank Azaria is very charming, and yet it doesn't. And I wonder if it's just my problem because I want to fit everything into categories, and it is sui generis this season, or what? What did you think?
You mean because it's not about parenting and it's not about heart? This is a place where men and women get along and they don't hate each other. Yeah, I think it is singular, and I've seen the British show, which I liked a bunch, and this first one was very similar, but I also liked it a bunch. I think the things they changed were great and suggested they sort of knew what their actors were. And one of the most annoying thing is the scene where his boss makes him relay all his sexual exploits, and you're just like, that's in a meeting.
That would
never happen. Right. That was in the British version, so it's not even quite their fault. I like that show a lot. I'm worried because that show it premiered already, and it's not on its night, and it did badly, and it does seem sort of out of place in sort of the zeitgeist of this season. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's like a pretty underrated show insofar as it's very professional, and I don't mean that as like some sort of insult that it's not funny. No. It was a very funny show about weird, twisted people who and it also nicely sort of, it's a kind of a will they, won't they show insofar as it's about a man and a woman who are obviously going to get together at the end, but they're sleeping together from the very beginning. And that's like a nice, a new update on that. Exactly.
And I think if it was on Showtime, it would get at least 2 seasons. Hank, which was terrible, did. And
Yeah. The guy in the original Free Agents is the guy who's on Showtime's episodes, the show with Matt LeBlanc now. And very similar, like jittery. Yeah. Exactly. The thing that's funny is about cable. This is like a thought that I think is funny, but I feel like there's almost no way to say it. Someone will be offended. Which is that when watching Two Broke Girls, I saw it and I was like, you know what? If this show were on cable, the way this show would end is with them getting together, the 2 girls. Yes, it reminded me, like, they have great chemistry. Yeah. It reminded me of, like, Bride Wars, which is, like, this horrible Anne Hathaway, Kate Hudson movie, that I was like, the actual end to this movie, if this was going to be a good in like the future, would be that Kate Hudson and Anne Hathaway get together, not like this horrible. That would have been that's just like romantic comedy math, but we're not there yet. Right. And Two Broke Girls sort of feels that way. You're like, this is sort of romantic comedy math. We're just not there yet. Like they're obviously perfect for each other. Right. And they could do it over 7 years. It would take a long time. They could like boys too, but of course it's on CBS, so exactly that will never happen.
And although sitting on horseback together,
it's very explicit.
Yeah, so a psychiatrist somewhere could find a.
Well, that is why someone had said to me, like, there's going to be a lot of fan fiction about that show. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, please. And I was like, oh, that's true. There's going to be.
Mm-hmm. So. Okay, sitcoms. We've done. Done. But there's some decent dramas this year, and I was surprised by the ones that I liked. For this section, shall we kind of say the ones we liked and the ones we didn't like? Because I know...
let's save the one that we disagree about till the end.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Okay. So, do you want to start with the ones that you liked? Oh, well, except for the one.
Yeah. So, right. Go for the one that I liked. So the show that's like by far the best is also not starting till mid-season, and that's Smash, and it's the musical theater show, and it may not last at all, but it's wonderful.
Yes. So you've seen that, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my! Oh, that's the one that I'm most curious about, and I agree with you. Even without seeing it, even knowing the incredible talent that's involved, original songs. Yeah. Even by the Mark Shaman and his partner, whose name former romantic partner whose name I can never remember. I mean, they're amazing songwriters of, they're amazing, but I just can't see it working. But I'm glad to hear that you liked it.
The pilot's wonderful. We'll see what happens. But, so I actually am not sure it's quite that good a year for, basically, it's better than last year, but there's not like that much that's very good. Another show that I liked, but I am now feeling embarrassed about it a little bit, is I liked Terra Nova. I saw it at a screening before they added this is such like a silly critic thing to say because like, who cares? No one's going to see this. But basically, I saw the first hour and they'd added like a 10-minute cap, like a 10-minute extra to the beginning in which they over-explain this like, very great surprise that's in the first 5 minutes. And it's so dumb what they added that you sort of just think it's in really bad hands.
No.
But,
yeah.
And it's very losty. It's very much wants to be lost.
Yes.
But, there's these dinosaurs.
Right.
And it looks amazing.
Let's just set up what this is because since it's not starting right away.
It starts on Monday.
Does it? Oh, excuse me. I thought it was in October, so.
No, it starts on Monday, but yeah. So this is the Steven Spielberg produced show about dinosaurs. Basically, the Earth in like 50 years we can't breathe, and so they've invented time travel, and there's a lottery to sort of send people back, hundreds and millions of years into the future where the dinosaurs are, sort of like to rebuild civilization.
So it's Battlestar Galactica with dinosaurs.
It's where Battlestar Galactica, I've actually said, it's exactly where Battlestar Galactica ended, basically.
Right.
So...
And how are the dinosaurs?
They look good, but the thing is, the show was delayed a year, basically. It was supposed to come out last May because of these dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. And I'm not really sure they look better than the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. Like, I'm sure they don't, in fact. I think they look at best the same, and at worst just much more CGI. But I mean, they're certainly not embarrassing dinosaurs, It feels a little like their main dinosaur, which is called a slasher. It's just like a little bit of like a poor man's raptor, They could have just had a raptor because they're small and smart and packs and they're scary,
Yeah.
But it's very, like the characterization is very poor in the first episode, but it will probably get better, and it's just kind of fun and epic.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
So I didn't hate that.
Okay.
I basically didn't strongly love everything. Oh, I lie. There's one thing I liked. I liked Revenge quite a bit, even though it's so silly, but at least it wears its silliness so seriously that it just kind of pulls it off. Revenge is a straight melodrama. I mean, not the way that Glee is a melodrama, not the way that Grey's Anatomy is a melodrama, honestly, like an imitation of life kind of melodrama, a Douglas Sirk, dead serious.
Yeah.
And set in the Hamptons, loosely based on the Count of Monte Cristo, which sort of sets the tone for absurdity about a woman who comes to the Hamptons, a young woman who's played by Emily Van de Camp, who is on Brothers and Sisters and Everwood, and is trying to get revenge on these families that sort of financially ruined her father, and he ended up dying. There's shades of Madoff in this as well, as there are in a number of shows this fall. And it's just, and Madeline Stowe is in it, looking like she hasn't aged a day.
I know. Even since the last of the Mohicans.
Exactly. And it's just very, very deadly earnest, and kind of not deadly, it's very earnest and sort of not campy. I mean, it is campy, but it can't be in after the Susan
Sontag straight,
which is that it's not trying to be campy. It's and it's. I really, I liked it. I'm a big sucker for plot, and I thought it was much better than one would have expected it to be.
I also liked it, and I was surprised that I liked it. Although I do, it was a little bit, I mean, everything that you said in the way that you've described it, I absolutely agree with. But I would also, my sort of very reductive formula for it was Royal Pains meets Gossip Girl. And it's beautiful, it's kind of clever. My only concern with it was that I wasn't sure that it was sustainable. Now, again, this was the pilot. She exacted her revenge on one person. It was nicely done, but it was a relatively small universe, and we already got rid of one person, and you sort of thought, well, either it's going to take a very long time to get revenge, in which case, is it going to be super slow? Or we're going to have to suddenly have a lot more people introduced. And that just was a slight concern for me, which, like, that's not my problem. Like, I should watch it until I get sick of it and, you know, and just not be so uptight. But I just I was already worried about that.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I think that we've been, like, as viewers of TV, sort of so burned by this. Like, does the show have what it takes to go the whole distance?
Yes.
Should it be like a British show? Should it only be 10 episodes? Should they have built in the end? You know, because we sort of all watch TV in a sort of more meta way than we used to. And you can't help but think it. I mean, there's this, which is exactly right about revenge. And there's a show, Awake, that's starting in mid-season on Fox, which is about a guy who... he goes to sleep and he's in a world where his wife is alive and his son is dead, and then he goes to sleep again and he's in a world where his wife is dead and his son's alive, and he doesn't know which is real. And it's a very good pilot. It's like by the guy who did Lone Star. It's very sort of Inception-y, but like you do wonder, how is this 5 years of a show? I mean, if the network, if you knew you could imagine 2 years maybe, but it's and you know there's the feeling, and that's like actually Terranova was like that. You could see that. They have their, you know, planting all these very like lost like seeds, and you just you know Lost being the real culprit in this anxiety. You want to know if they know. I mean, even like Ringer, which is a Sarah Michelle Gellar show on the CW. You know, I had interviewed her, and she was sort of promised that they knew what was happening. And it's such a weird, it's such a funny thing for them to be worried about, but also for us to be worried about. Because do you really know where you're going? Because if you don't, you are probably going to screw this up.
No, I mean, and Ringer to me was a huge disappointment. I was never a Buffy person because this is not anything I want to proselytize. I just don't care for supernatural shows in general, and I just never got into Buffy. But I still appreciate it, and I like her. I mean, she's so likable and, you know, kick-ass. But I watched that show with some anticipation, and I just found it really dull.
Well, I have to say that I actually think she's very unlike, I think she's not particularly likable as an actress. I love Buffy. I think she's amazing as Buffy, but I think she's a real prickle pear, and she is very good at sort of like melodrama. And I think like because Buffy was so sort of snappily written and had so much humor kind of built into it and was so smart, and also sort of so budget in its way, that those things all worked really well together, and she could like sort of bring the over dramatization, and it worked because she wasn't tipping over the seesaw because the other stuff was sort of freighted so heavily in the other direction. Right. But I'm not sure that, you know, I'm not sure how it will be in a show like Ringer, which seems like it's much sudsier just in general, and is like obviously a little less smart, and it's just a little more soapy. Full stop. Yeah.
Speaking of soaps, I guess we're close to getting to the shows that I liked, and I'm surprised by all of them because they're all kind of. I wonder if it's that they're a little different. Like I watch a lot of procedurals. I'm a big fan of procedurals, and so maybe, and yet the procedurals this year didn't grab me. So maybe it was just like
that many.
Well, there was Unforgettable, which was I just thought terrible. I mean. It's one thing on Medium for the, you know, the mystery to be solved by things that occurred to her in her sort of sleep or waking sleep, but at least we saw those things. In Unforgettable, it's like so this is the one where the person played by Poppy Montgomery, who I generally like, even though in this show her Australian accent for some reason seemed to be coming through more. The person has this real life affliction. She can't forget anything. Yeah, she can't forget anything.
The show used to be called The Rememberer,
which is so awesome.
They should have kept it.
And so she just kind of on demand returns to that moment and remembers what she saw. But we weren't there. We didn't see it. It just, and then she, you know, in the pilot, she did that thing where she went unaccompanied to a dark place late at night. I mean, like, it was just, to me, it was stupid, boring, and just asinine.
Well, it's also like, you know, I'm amused how far they can take this thing where it's like, person with X special quality has X special, like, X trauma that is, like, overarching, like,
Yeah.
And there's the Mentalist, there's Medium. I mean, there's House. There's so many of them, and it's just Body of Proof, and it just it starts to get. There are only so many afflictions a person can have and be very good looking and very high functioning. Right.
And then the thing that also annoys me, because you're exactly right, that's one part of the formula, and then now we also have to have this seriality component.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly, like the big overarching, like mythology or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And hers was like, oh, God, I mean, so she's forgotten one thing, and it's like, oh my God, no.
Well, it is interesting. I mean, it's funny because Law and Order, which is sort of like
the greatest show ever. You mean?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Like the holy grail of that show. I mean, they don't have that.
No.
They were like, no, you can watch any single one. There's
exactly. I don't understand the need for that.
Wait, but you liked Pan Am, right? I feel like we were getting.
I did like Pan Am. And then we are. I liked Pan Am.
This is the stewardess in the 1960s show.
Exactly.
Starring Christina Ricci and other people. Not really starring. She's just in it.
And I can't really justify my affection for it. I just really found it likable. I mean, again, it's like instead of giving people characters, it gave them quirks, which in a pilot I think is forgivable. Yeah. So we had Christina Ricci's the intellectual. We know this because she lives in the village and she knows who Hegel is.
Yeah, she's secretly sleeping with Don Draper on the weekends.
Exactly. She goes into that beatnik club and they're going to play a zither.
Right, she's going to run to Peggy.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe Peggy's friend will hit on her. And then there's kind of a Frenchie who's a bit easy. And then there's a rookie who ran away from her wedding and ran away to the airline. And then the rookie's sister is somebody who's been underestimated all her life, which I think was a smart kind of note to hit in a show that's aimed at women on Sunday nights, who is also a spy. And it's set in the 60s. And it's like ridiculous and nonsensical, but I found it quite charming.
Well, I would say what I liked about it, especially compared to the Playboy Club. I mean, and I'm making this comparison because these are both shows that seem, inspired in some capacity by Mad Men, are set in the same period, have people in nice period costumes, are hour dramas, are, unlike Mad Men, about a sort of interesting time period, or about, stewardesses, or about, I guess, the Playboy Club, which is, interesting and beautiful, and then have added this sort of hilarious, network component, which is spying in Pan Am's case, and this crazy murder plot in Playboy Club's case, whereas, Mad Men has enough drama just being at the ad agency.
Yeah.
But the Playboy Club I find to be, like, really horrible.
And, yes, I agree. And I love Laura Benanti, and it makes me so sad.
What is she doing in that? Someone get her a better show. She's great in it. She's actually very good in it.
Yes.
She's great. I wish her the best, and I hope it's not in that. But, which, that's done very badly. We'll do badly. Yeah. But that show sort of, like, takes itself very seriously, even though it's very bad. Which is like a kind of really, I find a particularly irksome trend with these sort of shows that have delusions of grandeur, as if we're going to all be convinced because they spent money on the set. I mean, you need more than just to have spent money on the set and to put people in, a Don Draper suit. Right. But Pan Am at least had a real sense of fun. Yes. And it obviously doesn't take itself that seriously. Yeah. My thing with Pan Am was that I thought it could be really fun, but it wasn't that fun from the pilot. Like, there was a lot going on. Yeah. They didn't know anybody. I thought the guy who they recast, and I haven't seen, was a total dud. Like, even in that way that, sometimes people have faces and you look at their face and then you know that if someone showed you a picture of their face 10 seconds later, you wouldn't know it. You couldn't, they're like non-face. He sort of has that face. And it wasn't that it could be good. And I mean, honestly, I say this as a person who, like, still religiously watches Grey's Anatomy. I think it's horrible and I love it. So it's not, I'm not saying that I have some standard for soap opera or pop that's incredibly high. I can get behind it, but it wasn't there for me. But a lot of people have really liked that pilot, and I think it's, it has some swing, and I could see it. It seemed like its heart was in the right place and it understood what it was in a nice way. Right.
I'm glad to hear that the men, or the pilot, has been recast, because I found the men absolutely...
Well, the prince in Once Upon a Time, I thought him and the Pan Am guy were the same person. I literally was like, are they the same guy? I don't remember what either of them look like. And they've both been recast, thank God.
Oh, I didn't know that either, because I also thought that A, he wasn't good looking enough, and B, maybe because I've been watching I do watch a lot of summer shows, and those shows, they don't have very good actors, but they have very beautiful actors who have amazing bodies, and you just thought, dude, you cannot be Prince Charming. You cannot be the captain. Like, you're not that guy. So that actually reassures me. I did like Once Upon a Time, and maybe because it just was very different from anything that I watch, because I can't really defend it. I do find Ginnifer Goodwin super charming. She has a fantastic pixie haircut.
Her haircut is the only thing about that show that is wonderful. I think her haircut's wonderful. She's adorable. You know, it's funny. I had work, actually, someone at work really likes Once Upon a Time, and I've been so venomous about I maybe worked myself into a corner of hating that show. But I just thought that thing was a mess. Like, I think the idea for that show is so good. I think that's such a great idea for a show. I really do. I think it could be wonderful. Like, so basically, it is about a world, a fairy tale universe, where it's sort of like all fairy tales exist, that because the evil queen is mad at Snow White, who's Jennifer Goodwin's character, she basically casts a spell on this kingdom and sends them to a town in upstate in New England. So
in Storybrooke, Maine.
Storybrooke, Maine, exactly. So Snow White and Rumpelstiltskin and this evil queen and Prince Charming, who's, you know, and various other people, you know, they mention other people, so obviously
Pinocchio, who seems to be exempt from child labor laws.
Right, exactly. Are sort of in this town in Maine, and they all have amnesia, and they don't remember who they are. Mm-hmm. Enter this boy, this sort of 7-year-old, very smart boy, actually, who played Bobby Draper most recently, but is no longer doing that. And he goes to find Jennifer Morrison, who's this woman who is Cameron on House, but basically is this sort of supposedly tough detective who's actually Snow White and Prince Charming's long-lost child, to come to this town, and basically the whole show is going to be her sort of fighting this duel with this woman who is the witch, but she doesn't remember it, you know, to sort of give everyone their memory back. That's a very complicated, confusing explanation. But basically there's 2 time periods. There's like fairy tale world and the real world, where the fairy tale characters don't remember who they are. I thought the fairy tale world looked so bad. I don't care what your show looks like particularly, but it can't look that bad. Yeah. Like, it just can't. If you're trying to tell me this is like a magical, special place where fairy tales are real, like, it just can't look like that.
I know. It was very, very cardboard. I mean, and I was shocked by that. And Ringer, too, had terrible special effects.
Terrible special effects. Oh, hilarious. And then also, I just thought the characters were like, as can be sort of, it's like a joke in the Disney movies, you know, in Enchanted, they sort of joke about what adult Prince Charming is. But some of those characters were like really flat. I mean, Jennifer Goodwin's so charming. In this, she was a nothing. She had no personality at all.
Yeah. And well, I have to say, like, as much as I'm still charmed by the show. You're not persuading me. However, I will admit that Robert Carlyle, who I love, was
as Rumpelstiltskin.
He plays Rumpelstiltskin, and it's I think one issue was it was an hour. They had a lot to squeeze in, so we didn't, other than kind of Snow White, the daughter, the kid, the witch. We didn't really get much else from other people, but Rumpelstiltskin in the modern world was particularly, like, that's going to be a bit tricky.
Right, and also I do wonder, like, you know, there's a certain amount of, like, frisson from riffing on these fairy tales in a kind of fun way, but then it has to be a show, and I'm not actually sure what an episode of that show looks like. Are we really cutting back and forth between the fairy tale world and the show? Because I almost would rather they never go back there again until the end, you know? Yes. And Jennifer Morrison is not particularly plausible as a tough detective, you know?
She's a bail bondswoman. She's totally believable as a bail bondswoman.
You think? I don't find her very tough. I mean, you know, I again, this is also like, this occurs to me, which is like, what is this show? Like, what is this show and how long can it last? And do they know what they're doing? Yeah. Like, I had that feeling very strongly with the show. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's funny, it's being touted as from the creators of Lost, although it's very different. Or like from the producers, some writers of Lost. And I really, like, I don't know. If they know what they're doing, okay, but I was not at all convinced that they did. And I just thought, I would like that show to be better. I think that's a fun idea.
Yeah. Just one before we get to our 2 quick things. Suburgatory, which
Yes.
is, what's his name?
Sitcom we didn't mention.
Yeah, well, well, that's the thing. Like, it's sitcom because I mean, and I thought it was very funny. Again, it was very well written. I mean, it had this kind of Rory Gilmore like character.
Very easy A. Very easy A.
Right, and
she's basically Emma Stone.
Yeah,
cute.
Yeah, and she had a great voice. It was a very charming young actress. Everybody was good, but it didn't feel like a half-hour sitcom. It felt like an hour-long show that I would have happily, spent more time with. But I didn't. It wasn't the show that I was used to being a half-hour laugher.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like you could almost imagine, right? It's the Gilmore Girls on the CW.
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
But I thought that show. I thought that she was good enough that I would stick it out to see like what her in school was really like, or what that show ended up being. I thought she was really, even though I've totally forgotten about her, was sort of one of the more convincing like new characters, and not just characters, an actress. You were like, you have charisma.
Yes,
like someone, if this doesn't work out for you, you will be in TV shows until something works out for you, as you deserve to be.
Absolutely. And then a show that I really liked. I think mostly just because I was very charmed by the actors, or I really love pretty much all of the actors, especially the females, was A Gifted Man, which is a very cliche setup. It's a sort of typical douchey doctor, very high-level neurosurgeon who's selfish and an elitist, and then he runs into his dead ex-wife, and she kind of helps him to open up his heart and help people. And there's a shaman who was played by Pablo Schreiber. I should say that the doctor is played by Patrick Wilson. His ex-wife is played beautifully by Jennifer Ehle. I never quite know how to pronounce her name.
Forever Elizabeth Bennet to me. But
exactly. And Margot Martindale is his assistant, who he treats badly. And I just was and I was weirdly moved by the shamanistic part of it.
I've only heard good things about that. Everyone and I myself included, has been like, this show is not as bad as it sounds like it would be. Jonathan Demme directed the pilot.
Right.
So it has all these very good people attached to it, and it is like it's one of those situations where all those people made it much better than it sort of sounded like it was. Right.
And it's in the Friday night ghost slot, so but it is still Friday night. So I don't know. I don't really have high hopes for it. If I was made to predict how long it would last, I would say less than half a season. But I really hope that it survives, because I would definitely watch it.
Yeah. Friday nights is like it could last forever.
Right. Yeah, like Ghost Whisperer.
Kind of safe.
Okay, let's get to the show that we disagree about.
Okay,
which is Prime Suspect. With the NBC version with Maria Bello. So I actually don't hate it, but I just don't like that it's called Prime Suspect, because Jane Timoney, which is the name of Maria Bello's New York Homicide Cop character, is not Jane Tennyson. Even though I only realized when I went back to watch just a couple of days ago the first episode of the Helen Mirren show, that they took exact plot points from the first 1991 first episode of the Helen Mirren show and put them in this show. But for me, that's the problem. Like, this is the closer. This is a show where, yes, a woman is treated badly. It's just, I wouldn't want to be in that situation where her co-workers, some of whom are, are less senior than her, treat her badly, exclude her. It's a men's club. It's a very tribalistic Irish-American group of men, and they are chauvinistic, and they reject her partly because they believe that she slept her way into this position. But it's not Prime Suspect. And also, you can't take those things from 1991. Jane Tennyson wanted to be the first woman to lead a murder squad. We've had that for decades. Cagney and Lacey was in the 80s.
Well, I agree with you. What I agree with you about is that I think calling it Prime Suspect is bizarre, because essentially they use a name that's similar and there's a couple things that are the same. But the truth is, this is the NBC version, as opposed to the Helen Mirren version, is a procedural, a gritty cop procedural that will not, the Helen Mirren version, there were many seasons, but each one was one murder. This is literally going to be like ER, Actually, the show, it sort of reminds me of the most, in a way, weirdly, is ER, although it's not a doctor show. But, like, every week she will have a case. So and honestly, this is not like a high concept, rare thing on television. You're like, I want to make a TV show about a female cop who's having a hard time.
Yeah.
And I have all these good people. Maria Bello's going to do it. Peter Berg's going to make it. It's going to be good. Yeah. Like, sell that show. So what is the point of calling it Prime Suspect? Only to piss people like you off,
Exactly. I mean, if the people that it will attract are, people who watch Masterpiece Mystery, and they're going to come to that, and they'll be like, this is Law and Order. Now, I love Law and Order. Right. I would very happily watch, and the first episode, the mystery element was pretty decent, and, the personal stuff wasn't too irksome. In fact, at the end was really quite good, but she ain't Jane Tennyson.
Well, so to me, the thing is, like, I like Crime Suspect quite a bit, but I obviously don't feel that strongly about it, but I loved this show. Like, I loved it, not because, and I'm not going to, like, argue about whether it's as good, because it's definitely not. It has sort of very different ambition.
Yeah,
it's sort of
exactly.
Not, but I thought, just for what it was, it was just, I thought it was so fun. I mean, so, and they're very different characters. This is sort of what's ridiculous about it, is that it's a very different show. So, Helen Mirren is very buttoned up. She's
very,
very
suppressed. At the beginning, right?
She, like, this episode, Maria Bello gets into, like, 3 fist fights, and, it's very gritty, but it's also, sort of over the top. And in that way, you could, it's maybe not as thoughtful, it's not as serious, it's not art, but it was so fun. And there's things that happen in it that are ridiculous. This is at the end of the episode, she kind of gives her boyfriend's ex-wife a stern talking to. Right. And it's so cliched, and I was so into it. And I was like, just take that woman down a peg. Like, I'm going to clap. Like, so fun. And when she's kind of beating up the perp, or when she's talking to the kid, all of this.
Yeah. And when the perp is beating her, like, that is she gets some serious damage done to her. And like, it's weird to say this, but I liked that they showed that being a cop as a woman, it is really physically damaging and dangerous. And then she said that was a good day at the office or whatever.
Yeah. No, and I'm fully, like, I think there's something that I would feel about the way you go out Prime Suspect, where just the idea, maybe like Buffy, where I just be like, the idea of you making the show is so horrifying. Why would you do that? Yes. And if you want to make a show about a girl who kills vampires, go make a show about that, Right. So if you want to make a show about a female detective, go make a show about that. It's fine. Yeah. And don't call it Prime Suspect. Yeah. But I really, really liked it. And I don't want people not to watch. I don't want people not to watch it because of Prime Suspect. I want them to be able to be like, these things are different. And honestly, I also do kind of want to commend the show, because as opposed to, say, The Office, which went through these horrible growing pains, or it was trying to be the British Office, and it was failing so horribly, and it was just not very good for 6 episodes until they figured it out. This show seems like it's not trying to be that. They figured that out very quickly. Yeah. And so it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's like the exact replica. You'd be like, it's not as good. Yeah. And it's not as good exact replica. And you're like, that's not my show. Why are you calling it that? So
Yeah, you're right. They can't win, and we're on the same page. Like, I agree. Of the procedurals this year, it's by far the best. There aren't that many that I've seen, but it still is. It's better than NCIS, and it's got some amazing. Just as the British original had these amazing character actors, it's clearly filmed in New York. You've got these amazing New York actors. Brian F. O'Byrne is just fantastic as the guy who will not, under any circumstances, accept her. And he's magnificent, but
and she's pretty great too.
She's
kind of a great badass.
Yeah, no, she is. I could do without the, but it's hard. I mean, I'm gonna not take back what I was gonna say, because there are certain cliches that you cannot avoid, because if you want to be the tough woman, you gotta do certain things, and
do you need to wear a fedora though?
Yeah, if you need to wear a fedora and chew some gum, then that's fine.
Yeah. Did you watch The Killing? Did you watch The Killing?
I did.
Right, so correct voice on that.
Yeah.
But it's just very funny because, there was all these mouth noises. We wrote about this a lot. There was constantly chewing. Constant chewing.
That's right. Because they're both
she was also on Nicorette.
Smoking. Yeah.
They were both, so it's like lady cops quitting smoking.
Yeah. Well, and of course
it's a gross thing.
Yeah. Well, and again, if they hadn't used the name, clearly the closer, they always, which I am a big fan of, especially at the beginning when it was a good show, they're clearly influenced, and they're openly influenced by Prime Suspect. If you make a show about a woman cop with some flaws, you're going to be influenced. It's it's either going to be Cagney and Lacey and a little bit light, or it's going to be heavy and Prime Suspect-y. Those are your choices. Yeah. And so, so many shows, including The Killing. At least her wardrobe is much better than The Killing, I'm glad to say. And the weather's better.
Well, the Killing is another one of these shows that is like Lost, where you're like, do you know where you're going? I don't. You burned me, like I got burned. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we should probably wrap up. But it has been awesome talking TV about you.
Excellent talking to you.
I think we could just go on and on and on and drive people crazy. Could. But I just want to watch some TV now. So
yes, there's so much. It's really overwhelming.
Yes, it's fantastic. The most glorious time of the. What are the best words in the English language? They're either all new episode or. Fall TV premiere season is great.
Yes, good phrases anyway.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Willa.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.